Hello and welcome to the Brian and Patty podcast.
No, it's the Patty and Brian podcast.
Today's episode is one that's close to our hearts and our feet because we've walked just about every inch of this sacred ground.
We're talking about Gettysburg, not just the battle, but the words, the Gettysburg Address. And today we're calling it the story behind the story.
We've been to Gettysburg several times, and each time it's like the town breathes history at you. From the wide fields to the little streets, there's this quiet hum that says, something happened here.
One of the most moving places we've been is Evergreen Cemetery. That's where the Abraham Lincoln gave his Gettysburg Address, standing on a platform just a few yards from where we were walking. And yet, we tried standing in about the same spot. Didn't work for selfies, but the feeling, oh, it's incredible.
Let's rewind to November 1863. The Battle of Gettysburg had ended just 4 months earlier. Town was still raw, wounded in more ways than one. The graves were fresh. Buildings were still damaged. Families still grieving. President Lincoln's son, Tad, was sick at home in Washington, D.C. Lincoln could have stayed home, but the nation needed him at this dedication of the new Soldiers' National Cemetery, so he boarded a train.
Now, the trip from Washington to Gettysburg wasn't a quick drive on the interstate. It took hours. He arrived at the Gettysburg train station in the afternoon. We've been to that station. It's still there. You can almost picture him stepping down, tall hat and all, being met by a small welcoming party.
From the train station, he rode on horseback to the Wills house. David Wills was a prominent local attorney and one of the main organizers of the cemetery dedication. And Patty, remember when we stood in that very room?
Oh, yes, the bedroom where Lincoln slept that night before. Simple bed, simple room, and the thought that one of the most famous speeches in history might have been finished right there. It gives you goosebumps.
Now here's one of those story behind the story. Lincoln didn't write the Gettysburg Address in one sitting. He'd been thinking about it for weeks, jotting down ideas. The night before, in the Wills house, he refined it. Some say he was still making changes the morning of.
And he wasn't the main event. The keynote speaker was Edward Everett, a famous orator who spoke for 2 hours.
Yep, Lincoln followed him with a speech of just 272 words. 2 minutes. Everett later wrote a letter to Lincoln saying, "I should be glad if I could flatter myself that I came as near to the central idea of the occasion in 2 hours as you did in 2 minutes."
The morning was crisp. The crowd, maybe 15,000 people, gathered. Lincoln's voice carried over them, clear but solemn. And the amazing thing is, some people didn't even realize it was over at first. It was so short.
Some newspaper editors criticized the speech. Others recognized its power right away. But Lincoln himself, he thought it hadn't gone over very well.
Little did he know that school kids, like us, would be memorizing it generations later.
Speaking of memorizing, Patty and I have been trying to commit the Gettysburg Address to memory. We're getting there. Not perfect yet, but we're determined. And each time we go back to Gettysburg, it's like the words settle a little deeper. Fourscore and 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives so that the nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here, have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation under God should have a new birth of freedom, and that the government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.
There's something about walking through the wheat field, or standing on Little Round Top, or standing in the quiet evergreen cemetery that connects you not just to history, but to the heart of the words.
Walking through the battlefield in Gettysburg and the town, here are some of our favorite areas. The Angle, where Pickett's charge ended. Devil's Den, the rocks still feel like they hold the echoes of battle. Culp's Hill, beautiful, wooded, but fought over fiercely. And of course, the Lincoln Speech Memorial, marking where Lincoln spoke.
Gettysburg is pastoral, yes, but it's also a place of deep reflection. It's where the past whispers, and if you listen, you can almost hear those 272 words floating on the breeze.
So we'll keep memorizing, keep visiting, and keep feeling at home here, because the Gettysburg Address isn't just about the past. It's about who we want to be as a nation.
And that's a story worth telling again and again.
And that's the story behind the story of the Gettysburg Address. We hope you found it as fascinating as we did.
The echoes of the past are waiting to be heard.
My name is Brian Smith.
And I'm Patty Smith.
And we are history. Thank you for listening.